What's up? This your boy EC22, and thank you for joining another episode of the Fairweather Fan Podcast. Y'all listen, in the world of sports, when you hear our in-game announcers, or when you hear the TV analysts or sports analysts, or when you hear the sports reporters and so forth and so on, when you hear these guys talk about certain players, you hear things like GOAT, elite, phenomenal, top tier, the greatest to ever do it, and the list goes on and on and on. And the cool and the most fun part about when you hear certain analysts or personalities, whatever, give these adjectives to these players, is sometimes it can seem a little contradictory. Here's a situation, or here, let me explain what I'm saying. You can have a player to have a great game, just a random player have a great game. And immediately after the game or in the days after that, when they talking about or reporting on the game, you hear some of the analysts will say stuff like, oh, that guy is an elite player, or that guy is a phenomenal player. He's one of the best to do it in the league right now. And you hear that type of stuff, and no matter what sport you're talking about, you hear that stuff. And then let's say maybe within that same hour, within a couple of minutes from that, or even a few days or weeks down the line, someone will pose a question. Well, who is the greatest right now? Or who is the best? Or who are the top 5 or top 10 or top 20 or whatever, 15 players? And now, let's say that same analyst who just rated this player as being a phenomenal player, one of the best to do it of his generation or whatever, now it becomes where it seems to be a little contradictory. So let's say if this person is not named in their top 5. And so someone would say, well, hey, why wasn't this person in your top 5? Now that analyst has to give a reason why he didn't pick this player who he once called phenomenal, the best to ever do it in this generation, awesome player, why this person is not picked in their top 5. And then you hear things saying stuff like, oh, well, he's a good player, just not great, not when compared to blah, blah, blah. And then that's where a lot of the debates come at. And me, I'm just a very crazy analytical person. I analyze, probably overanalyze a lot of things. So what seems to me is happening, and I love the conversation, you hear statements that are kind of like open and really should be geared towards each individual's opinion. But then if let's say what we hear today, give an example. Who's the greatest of all time in basketball? Michael Jordan, LeBron. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got all types of people weighing in. Some say LeBron, some Michael Jordan. And everybody's have their own opinion, right? Because it's really a subjective comment, right? Who is the greatest? It's what you think. But we hear a lot of arguments going back and forth because what's really not explained is the criteria. Just like when somebody calls somebody a phenomenon, the greatest player to ever do it, or he had an excellent game, blah, blah. Okay, but what are the criteria to say that? And then when somebody say, okay, what's their top 5 or who was the greatest of all time? What is the criteria that you're using to formulate your answer? Because if it's just an opinion, you don't need a criteria. You just got to give your opinion. But what people are really arguing is not necessarily to say that LeBron is better than Jordan or Jordan is better than LeBron or these top 5 players, snub about these top 5 players. It's simply saying that, hey, I have a different criteria on how I categorize these players or how I characterize these players in my own mind and in my own opinion. And so what we really are debating is not the players, we're debating the criteria, if that makes any sense to people. I said all that to say, since we're in the NFL season right now, I want to give my top 5 players. But the word I want to use is elite. And then I want to use, elite, top tier, or whatever. But I want to use the word elite. And so for the sake of arguing or having an argument or debate, which is fun anyway, because it's really just my opinion, right? When you give a criteria, hopefully the agenda is to see if we all can come to the same conclusion. Because if I say, okay, who's the better out of LeBron James, it's going to be a whole bunch of people weighing in on how they feel or whatever. But if I say my criteria of being the greatest of all time is a person who won 6 titles, 6 finals MVP, 13 seasons, has a phenomenal shoe brand. That's the criteria for being the greatest of all time. Who has that? None other than Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Not LeBron. LeBron has a good shoe deal. If he's only won 5 MVPs, finals MVPs, and he's been to the finals 5 times. But that's just fun. So my criteria for the NFL elite, and I'm only going to stick to quarterbacks because the NFL is so vast, right, as far as talent-wise, but I'm going to stick to quarterbacks. So my definition of elite being the top elite players of the quarterbacks, I should say, of the NFL. I'm going to name them. They're going to get my description of why I call them elite players. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. My definition of elite and why I chose those players. Well, first of all, hardware for one. All 4 of those guys have been to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. Well, that means there's a lot of quarterbacks that went to the Super Bowl and won one, but particularly those 4 guys, like I said, 5, those 4 guys that went to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. 3 out of the 4 of those guys have won MVP of the season, which is Rodgers, Brady, and Mahomes, who've won league MVPs. I'm still trying to research, and I haven't found anything online yet, and I'm quite sure that Russell Wilson actually made the finals MVP of the year that they won, Super Bowl MVP the year that they won the Super Bowl. I'm not sure, somebody correct me on that, but I'm not going to use that as a criteria because I don't know that answer. But those are the reason why I chose those, because right now in the NFL right now, as far as output, passing yardage, what they've been able to do over their career, I got those guys in my top 4. And the reason why I have Patrick Mahomes, because yes, he and his elite quarterback and what he's been able to do in a short amount of time in the league, that's got him ranked as an elite. Well, what makes him different from any other quarterback? Because he has a hardware, and there's no other young QB at his level that has hardware, that has a season MVP as well as a championship ring. So that's that. The ones I would say are the top tiers of the next wave, the ones after those elite players or top tier guys, I say are coming and this is my criteria. I'll tell you my names and I'll say my criteria. Will be Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and Kyler Murray. And that one is clear. If you know those names, you already know what they have in common. Now, rounding off the bottom, because I don't want to snub anybody, but you have all these quarterbacks. You have 32 teams and then a bunch of other quarterbacks, right? But then I would give like honorable mentions, or I would say guys who, in my opinion, can round off the bottom, right? This is where I don't really have a criteria. I'm just going to go with how I feel on this one. I would say rounding off the bottom would be people like someone like Josh Allen for Buffalo Bills, a Baker Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns. Those are like strong twos. And then I start looking at people like Jimmy Garoppolo, if he can hold on to his starting job. Matt Stafford, he's balling out of control right now. Oh, and Derek Carr. So it's really my top 3 of the bottom would be Josh Allen, because I like the way he played. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, and then you still got up in air, in my opinion, when you come down to Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford and Ryan Tannehill kind of side by side, and then you definitely got Jimmy Garoppolo over there. And I know a lot of people are probably grabbing their seat chairs, ready to comment or ready to fight me about my list right now. Something fun I want to do for this episode of the Fairweather Fan Podcast. Didn't have any guests today, but it's something really just to have fun, give my opinion. That's what this podcast is about. It's all about all things sports. And we're here for the fun. We're here for the homies. We're here for the competition. Yo, this your boy EC22, and thank you for tuning into the Fairweather Fan Podcast. Listen, if you like the content, please hit the like and subscribe button, man. Tell us how you're doing, leave comments. But if you want to be a guest on this podcast, please DM me your information. We'll link up, and then we'll go from there. This your boy EC22, signing off. Peace out.